look what we've got here then, eh? Truck dropped off my front bar today, finally. Big box on a pallet, and it's finally here. That's obviously the front half of it. Bits of it over here, bits of it here. We obviously need to assemble it all, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to chuck it all together, and we can prepare to chuck it on the car eventually. It was a good wait for it, I'll tell you that, but well worth the wait to finally get it. Raslarr are obviously renowned for, you know, making good bars, and more than happy to wait for quality, so that's why I went with Raslarr. Even though I knew they were going to take some time because they're so popular, it doesn't bother me at all. So we got obviously the front bar, road safe recovery points, we got the steady fog lights and the steady light bar as well, and there's a bag of hardware and other stuff. So there's the wings there, side of the bar, and then over here is just like the light bar housing, and also the underside guards for the wings of the bar. So there's a little bit of work involved in it, but it'll certainly be doable by yourself. So a bit of weight in just that bit, so it's probably 40 kilos, and all up it's probably 60 odd kilos, if not more. So definitely something you can do by yourself if you're strong enough, or if you have the means, or grab a mate to give you a hand. Certainly be the easier option. But anyway, I'm going to tackle it by myself because that's just what we do. So let's crack into putting it together. Alright, so if you've got a bench, lay it out on a bench. I don't have a bench big enough for this bar, so I've chucked it on the floor, and I'm just going to start by putting all the little bits and pieces together. So putting the fog lights in and getting the connectors set up for them. So the connectors aren't actually put on, you've got to do that yourself. So very easy to do. It's obviously a positive and a negative wire, and they've just got a little bit of black plastic on the wires. Just take that off, and then you just push them into the supplied plugs. So then you can run your wiring harness for the fog lights, and then obviously put it in its hole. Now, there's quite a bit of hardware involved in it. These are the little black plastic sheaths that are on the wires. You just pull them off and chuck them away. And these are the mounting bolts for the fog lights. And I'm just utilising these smaller nuts for them ones, and I'll probably chuck the small washers on the bolt side as well, I think, and then I can do them up nice and tight, and then we can move on to the next step. Alright, so I've gone ahead and chucked the wings on now. I've utilised these big bolts along with the nuts that fit and the washers, one on the bolt side and then one on the nut side. I'm guessing that's how you're meant to do it. The Raslarr video doesn't show them actually putting the wings on or that sort of thing, which is a bit annoying, because it'd obviously be nice to find out, you know, what bolts go where for what, and like what pieces are and that sort of thing. Like this is obviously the top piece that'll house the light bar, but yeah, no discredit to them or anything, but yeah, just that the first couple of steps are sort of missed on their video. But putting it on the car is obviously straightforward. It's just this bit here really. So when you're doing the wings, you need to make sure, well, they recommend anyway, that you use the lowest setting in the bolt hole here. So you have it as like the wing as far up as you can with the bolt at the bottom, and that'll make sure that it sits flush with the main section of the bar, which mine does. And you also want to watch this bit here, this curved section here. You're going to want to follow the curvature of the rest of the bar, which I've done on both sides. There'll be some little overlap through this section here, but apart from that, it'll all line up fairly easily. So you just want to make sure that you get them two bits right, so then it'll actually sit right on the car. So that's sort of the biggest bit when you put the wings on. But apart from that, it's fairly straightforward. This middle hole here, if you have big impact sockets like I do, got the Milwaukee set, the flared section on the socket will get stuck through that middle section, and can be a bit of a pain to actually get that nut done up nice and tight, but you'll get there eventually. So the bolts are 18mm, but the nuts are 19mm, so grab yourself a socket set, a good impact, and some spanners. So at least that's all put in now. You can only assume that this light bar bracket utilizes the other two big bolts, perhaps. Can only guess. So yeah, we'll see, because there's some smaller sized, bigger bolts that'll obviously, I don't know, they might be for them pieces there, and I don't even know what they are. So for now, I think we'll put the top bit on for the light bar, and then we might put that on So then at least we've got all the wiring stuff sorted out. So at least that's one thing sort of done and dusted. Right, so moving forward pretty well now. This is your radar bracket, this black piece of plastic, and that's how it'll sit. I just use the little Allen bolts for that one, and then the smaller big bolts will join in through them holes. And then got the light bar sorted out. You just use the included steady light bar bracket and just some bolts and bolt that up. That's how it'll sit. This is your camera bracket. That's its orientation, so you want this back side of it to be all flush. And you just bolt that up through the two middle holes underneath the light bar. Then I use the last two big bolts for these side pieces for the light bar bracket. So they go in there. And then we'll do all that up nicely and that'll sit good. And then the radar bracket will sit in those two holes down the bottom there. So they'll go through and then they'll utilize the smaller big bolts, being them ones. Then really it's just take the front bar off the Patrol and put all the other stuff in, like sensors and the light washers, and do the rest of the little wiring stuff for that, and that'll be sorted out. Now they do include a piggyback adapter for the light bar, so you can plug it straight into your headlights, so the light bar will come on when your high beams come on, which is good. Luckily I've already got one for my other light bar, so I'll just use that's already in the car, so that's already one step that I don't have to worry about. I'll literally just be able to plug it into this, which will be good, instead of using the light bar on the roof. Or I also have the option of just being able to use them both. It'll be a little bit of a muck around, because obviously I'll have to use a piggyback on a piggyback. So we'll see how we go when the time comes and what I'm feeling like, but I've got a couple of options there, which is good. So far everything seems to be all hunky-dory, so yeah, no, we're tracking along okay. I don't really realise how big the front of the Patrol is until you put a bull bar together. It's quite wide. So yeah, that'll basically be our next step. Just finish off these little bits and then we can take the front bar off and put this one on, pretty much. So still quite a few nuts and bolts left, but I'm sure they'll all find their places. I think a lot of them, the majority of them, are just for the panels that sit underneath the wings. So alright, so now got the car in the garage, and let's just do a bit of a recap about what we've done so far. So we've got the radar bracket in. We've obviously got the light bar mounted in there with the light bar bracket mounted on. We've got the wings on with the fog lights. They're all in on both sides and set happy. It looks good from the front, so it should be all good. Those other bits here, these are the wing supports, which I thought they were. So they will go on this bit here once the bar's bolted onto the car. So that's what we've done so far. Fairly straightforward and easy to figure it all out. Obviously used all the big bolts for the structural stuff, like the top light bar bracket, and obviously connecting with the wings. These ones were sort of like the medium size Allen key bolts, and they obviously, you'll know the right one because it'll fit in the hole correctly. But apart from that, it's all together and looking good. So now we need to take the front bar off the car, and now will be a good chance to fix this up. I don't know what happened here to this chrome piece, but all this paint's just starting to flake off. It happens, stone chips and that sort of thing, but it does eventually happen, so good chance to get that sorted out. So now we've got to take the front bar off and put all the associated bits, wiring and hoses and stuff, into this bar, and then we can mount it onto the car. So gonna get cracking with taking this front bar off. I'll let you know how the progress goes throughout taking it off, and just any little snags or anything weird that I might come across, just so then you guys know about it as well. Should be fairly straightforward and shouldn't cause us too much of a hassle. Let's get cracking with that, because I'm super keen to get this thing on and I want to get it done today. I want it on the car and looking schmicko. Without further ado, let's cue the music and get cracking. And just like that, the front bar is removed. Fairly straightforward really. A few bolts along the bottom and a couple in the sides, as you could imagine. There's a couple up in the guard that you might miss. There's a couple that sit up in here. Don't forget them ones, otherwise you'll end up just ripping stuff off and you don't want to do that. But there you go, it's off. You want to do what I did, get a clamp so you can actually clamp headlamp washer line there, otherwise you'll have your water just pissing out like I did there. Right, so now we've got all the loom in, everything's plugged in, sensors are plugged in, wiring for the fog lights is in, and our headlight squirters are plugged in as well. So from the old bar, you'll utilize the actual squirter bracket, and then you use the Raslarr little brackets that come with it, with the bar to secure it in the bar itself. So just be mindful of that one. Make sure you use them, otherwise they obviously won't go in properly. You also get the like 6-inch extension wire for your the wing sensors, because obviously they won't reach otherwise. So Raslarr include them ones, so you just plug them in, and that just gives you that little bit of extension to reach out. Make sure your pin layout is correct on your fog lights. On the Nissan stuff, on the driver's side, it'll be purple and black. Black will obviously be your ground, and the purple will obviously be the power. That's similar story on the passenger side as well. There's a white and a black. The white will be the power, and the black will obviously be the ground. So just make sure you've got them pinned out correctly, otherwise your fog lights won't work. I've cable tied all the stuff together. It'll obviously sort of just slop around in there because there isn't really any places to cable tie or to mount anything wiring wise in there, but that's okay. You obviously won't see anything when it's on the car. So now we're going to take this bottom crash bar out. Keep the nuts and bolts for that one, because that's what we'll use when we put the bar on, which will go through the 3 holes on the side obviously. So we'll take that out, and then we'll fit the recovery points, and we'll remove the factory stuff because we obviously won't need that anymore, and it's just taking up space under there, so we can get rid of that. And then we need to trim the guard liners and make sure they're all schmicko. And then we need to take out the bits under the light, and then there's a little panel on the side of the headlights that we need to take out as well. So all that's fairly easy. Power tools will be your friend. With something like this, it just makes things so much easier, especially because things like this will be done up super tight, so that'll just be a heap easier and save you a lot of time. We also need to take the little radiator guards out of the bottom as well. The top ones can stay there. And I think we will just remove the other bar there while we're here, might as well. So we'll get all that out of the way, and then we can, yeah, then we're pretty much set to put the bar in. First off, I'm gonna take the camera out of the front grill, put that into the bar in its little spot there. So that'll be easy enough. And then yeah, we'll be ready to put it in. Alright, we're now ready to fit the bar. Put the recovery points just loosely in there. They're a little bit fiddly, but they're not too bad. There's a stud that will go through, that'll thread into the backing plate, and then there's another threaded section on the other end that the actual mount itself will go onto, and then there's another threaded section that goes through the stud itself, and then that's where the longer bolts will go through, which are them long ones down there. So you've got to have them all lined up and in specific spots, but it's not too bad. It's just a little bit of mucking around, but yeah, it's not too bad. So now we can fit that bar up and have a bit of a squiz at how it's going to look. So here we go. Alright, we're on. And we can put the bolts on the studs, and that's it. Right, so now's obviously a good time to check your panel gap and that sort of thing. Mine actually looks really good, so I'm happy with that. Obviously it's not sitting in 100% at the moment, but once we get it all tightened up, it'll look all Mickey Mouse. But yeah, wasn't overly difficult. A little bit of mucking around and that sort of thing, but everything sort of fits as it should, and yeah, no, it looks good. So we'll get this buttoned up the rest of the way, and then we'll be good to go. But yeah, I'm liking it. Alright, so it's halfway on. I just need to fix up this wing here, because as you can see, the gap's a bit too big on that side. Whereas if you look at the other side's like perfect. That's what you want it to look like that. So that's all good. You can still access the bolts even though the bar's on. So I'm just going to loosen them up a little bit, and then I can hopefully lift that back up into place properly. Didn't look like that when I first put it on, so I think that wing support might have something to do with it. The rest of it looks good. I still need to put the recovery points on. Those the bolts through the center are a pain in the backside. That bolt there, it's got to go through that pin that goes through the middle, and the thread on the bolt compared to the thread inside the actual pin is like slightly off. And even when I tried to thread them in with the bolt, with that pin out of the actual car, it's still, yeah, it was still not like going in there properly. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, them ones, but yeah, persevere, because yeah, they're sort of important. And then I can do the bottom of the recovery points as well, get that sorted out, and then it's pretty much done. I just need to put that grill back in, and then we'll be finished. So we'll do that, and I've got a lot of mess to clean up. Alright, so I've got the bar on and looking nice now. I had to adjust the driver's side wing, just pull it up a little bit and manipulate that a little bit to sit right. It's still not 100% how I would like it. The gap is a little bit off compared to the passenger side. The passenger side one is perfect, but I just couldn't get that one to sit how I wanted it. I had to get the jack and a piece of wood to jack that up whilst I undid the bolts and tighten them up how I wanted it. But it looks fine as it is, and I'm happy with how it looks, so that's not too bad. Got obviously got the number plate mounted up on there now, and obviously got the grill back in as well. That hides a lot of the wires and stuff there. If you put a winch in, you'll have to take the grill out to really do anything on the winch, because you obviously can't get a hand in there. Accidentally painted that side with a satin finish instead of the gloss, so I'll have to strip it off and do it again, but that's okay. Camera relocation is in, and that's actually a really good spot down there. I much prefer that over where it sat previously, so that's really nice. For the number plate, I just used again some Allen key bolts on them ones with a nut on the inside. I got some nylock nuts to fit these bolts, just so I know that won't ever come off. So I'm just going to replace that nut with the nylock ones, and that'll be all sweet. And we've got the underside of the wings on using the Allen key bolts. So that's all in now, and some washers on that side too. The other side is just nut certed, so you can easily just screw these ones in, and this panel sits underneath the bar, so you just got to slide it up and over so all the holes line up. Still mucking around with these recovery points. Just the thread on the inside of that pin, for whatever reason, just doesn't match up those bolts perfectly, and it's sort of ruining the heads of the tips of the bolt. I'm gonna have to get a dye kit so I can just dye those threads to suit the pin that goes through, because I do want to get that in and not just leave it how it is. So still have to do that, but should be able to get that sorted fairly easily. Still need to wire up the light bar. I just need to pull the cable out of the roof and redivert it back down this way, which is easy enough. So I'll get that all sorted out, and then I can have that light bar hooked up. I've already got the switch inside the car anyway, so that's a heap easier, and I won't have to worry about mucking around with the light bar on the roof, so that's okay. But wow, doesn't it just completely transform the look of the car? Really happy with it, how it looks. Awesome bar, really impressed with the quality, as I knew it would be. Obviously you've got mounting points on the top here for spotlights and also UHF aerial. So I might move the aerial from the bonnet down to there. I'll have enough coax cable to get there. I just think it'll help to eliminate a bit of that blind spot on that side, especially if you've got a snorkel and a UHF aerial there. You'll know that creates a pretty big blind spot. So if I can at least move the aerial out of the way, it'll probably help a little bit. But yeah, the car just looks so awesome now. Really impressed, especially when the lift goes in. That'll be awesome. And once the rear bar gets here, which hopefully won't be too far away. The ride has gotten a bit stiffer now that bar's gone on, but that'll be sorted out once the lift goes on and we have some properly rated springs in it. So let's just talk about the quality of the bar itself. Look, I mean, as you can expect from Raslarr, really good quality. As you can see, the color matching is perfect. All the welds and all that sort of stuff and pre-drilled holes were all perfect. All the welds looked really nice. The bar itself is really sturdy. The material quality is very good, and the paint quality is very good too. I noticed there was a couple of little bits of tape still on the bar, and there's a couple of little bits along the wings that had a bit of paint chipped off, but I mean, it's no big deal. You can't see it when the bar's actually fitted to the car, and I mean, the tape just pulls off, so hardly worth mentioning, but I thought I'd just drop it in there if we're going to be super critical of it, because I can't really fault it at all. So apart from the road safe recovery points that are a little bit finicky, the rest of it super easy to do, and to change little bits on the wings isn't too hard either. And all the hardware is good quality as well. If you are going to attempt this at home, some ratcheting spanners. Grab yourself a good set of ratchet spanners. These are just some TTI ones, however they've done a really good job assembling the bar and they've come in super handy. There's a lot of places that you can't actually get an impact into, so having a good set of ratchet spanners just helps to really speed things up, and you can get obviously good purchase with them and do things up nice and tight. So they were super handy for a lot of the tight stuff. I also definitely recommend a good rattle gun or impact driver or something like that that can give you a good amount of torque, so you can do up all them bolts nice and tight, and probably get yourself a thinner impact socket set. The Milwaukee one is good, but like I said, just them flared back ends of them made it a bit difficult to get to some of the bolts that were through the midsection of the bar. So I definitely recommend getting yourself a good set that is thin and doesn't have a flared end on it. These are the bolts that I was talking about that you got to get through the bar, and as you can see, it's just destroying the tip of the bolt itself, trying to thread it in. So I don't know if the pitch of these bolts doesn't match up with what the internal thread is on that pin, or what the go is there. Even when it was out of the car, I tried to thread it into that hole just to make sure that they were the actual right bolts, and it struggled to get to actually thread itself onto the pin when it was out of the car. So it just makes it a heap harder when it's already on the car. So yeah, I'm gonna have to get a die set and just touch up them threads a little bit, that they're as they should be, so I can actually thread it in. So that's a little bit annoying, but everything that came with the kit was good, and it's nice to have everything that you need, so you don't have to go and buy other random bits and pieces along the way. So it was good that the whole thing included everything that you need. And this is the box of all the bolts and stuff that I collected that we took out of the car. So you'll have a good collection of random bits and pieces. There's a few leftovers from the kit in here. Definitely want to keep all this stuff just because a lot of these bolts, their pitch is sort of specific to its application. So if you do lose little bits and pieces on the car over time, you've got a good collection of random bits and pieces that you can hopefully fit to the car, like these big bolts here and stuff like that. These are used a bit throughout the underside of the car, along with these ones. These ones are used quite often in the car as well, so it's just handy to have all them sort of bits and pieces in case you do need them in the future. So don't just chuck them out, keep them. You'll also have a heap of these clips spare, which in my case is really handy, because when the windscreen got replaced, they didn't put the plenum clips back in. So I actually now have some spares that I can put in there because they are actually specific to Nissan. So I now have some spares that I can put in, which will be good to have that looking as it should. So that pretty much concludes it. I will do a little follow-up on how I went with the recovery points. However, I'll just run through very quickly how they do go in. So you will need to use the 3mm spacer that comes in the kit. There's 6mm ones there, but basically when it's all bolted up, you want it to sit nice and flush with the bar, so it's nice and horizontal and flush up with the bar, so it'll fit in there really nicely. And then underneath is the other big black bolts that come with the kit as well. I've used a flat washer with a spring washer, and I've put them on completely different ways on there, but anyway, I will fix that up so they're actually the correct way. And yeah, they just go in. Obviously that's the pin bolt that goes through the chassis, and then you've got your recovery point down here where you can connect soft shackle, or you know, whatever you want to do there. Fairly straightforward. You could easily do all this sort of stuff in a day if you really wanted to. The bar assembly itself is pretty straightforward. Taking the bar off the car is fairly straightforward as well. A little bit time consuming just doing the loom and getting all that set properly and getting all the bits and pieces in. Sensors work as expected. And yeah, no issues with the car whatsoever. So I hope that's been really handy for anyone who wants to attempt it at home. Certainly not difficult, and basic tools are really required to do it. So I definitely recommend getting some power tools though. It just helps to speed up the process, and definitely the ratchet spanners as well. Again, just helps to speed up the process and make things a bit easier. Certainly achievable by yourself, not hard at all. Just obviously make sure you get your wings set correctly, and that's pretty much the biggest issue. And yeah, just do up everything nice and tight. If you really want to be anal about it, you can certainly get a torque wrench and make sure everything's done up to whatever torque setting you like. I'm not sure what the torque settings would be. You'd probably have to speak to Raslarr about what they would recommend, but something I'll probably do in the future, especially with those mounting bolts for the actual bar to the chassis. I'll send them an email and see what they say, and then I'll get the torque wrench on there and make sure they're torqued correctly. I hope this video has been helpful. If you do want to attempt this yourself, certainly a awesome upgrade to the car and gives it a whole new tough look. So very impressed. The beauty of the Raslarr bar is it does come with a little plate that shows you that it is ADR compliant, which is awesome. So make sure you got that in the car or on the car somewhere. That's obviously also very handy when it comes to engineering as well. So definitely do not chuck that one out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all at the next video.